Joe Rogan was on Two Bears One Cave, and I do implore you guys to check it out because it was really funny, like really funny. Tom Segura, I think, is really underrated in terms of a podcast host and just a podcast in general. In the same way Andrew Santino is, I think he's absolutely hilarious. I know people I will not agree and think I'm sucking up to these people, but I don't. I honestly do think you should check out those guys' podcasts. Are definitely really good. And Joe Rogan was a guest on the Two Bears One Cave because I guess Bert's out there touring and doing his thing because he says like he doesn't like being at home or even being around his friends, so it makes complete sense. And Joe Rogan was really good on this show. Tom Segura is absolutely hilarious, and essentially Tom got Joe to maybe clarify his remarks about wanting to shoot the homeless people. I remember when Tom was last on Joe Rogan's podcast and they got into a conversation about homelessness and they made a kind of a throwaway joke about shooting homeless people, but I got the feeling that even though it was a throwaway joke, that Joe kind of was serious about it. Do you know what I mean? He's like, hey, if a homeless person touches my shit, I'm going to blow their head off. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't ramping at all, but Tom got him to basically clarify his comments, and I thought the joke at the end by flipping Tom caught me off guard, but I absolutely laughed my head off when I heard it the first time. So I'll play the clip now for you.
But it's like, I think if someone just decides that you're a problem and they put you in like a cat, and the thing is like, how much leeway do employees have? Because it's clearly not being done by AI. This stuff is very subjective. So a lot of these kids that are working in these tech companies, they're coming straight from universities and they're super woke. And they think that people like DeStefano or people like you or me are a real problem.
Yeah.
People who joke around about stuff. This is a real problem.
Yeah.
And joking around about serious things that can't be joked about.
Oh my God. The thing that, you probably lose track of this all the time because it happens to you like every day. But
yeah, someone said this here in the comments, which is hilarious. I just remember this actually. Good to bring it up, Proven187. He still hasn't been on T-Fat-K. You know how hilarious that is? You know how funny that is? The way they suck him off, like, the way they've got his flipping cock and balls in his mouth. They have pictures of him on their flipping wall. That really cringy one of all the guns pointing towards him like he's going to get cancelled. Like, ugh. Again, I love Joe Rogan. I'm a big Joe Rogan fan. I started my own podcast because of Joe Rogan and Bill Burr and a few other people. I love those guys. I really do. But the way that they suck up to them is really gross and makes me kind of dislike the fact that I like the guy so much because there's other people out there who kind of suck him up to him so much, which is really, really disgusting. But regardless, they act as if they're like really good friends, like legitimately friends. Like, oh, we're friends. We hang out all the time. I text him all the time. He's my mentor. Blah, 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 blah. Joe this, Joe that, Joe that. But when it comes down to it, and when it comes down to, because again, they make it seem like, oh, just because I'm not on your show doesn't mean we're not friends, or they make it seem like the fans read too much into stuff, whatever it may be. But let's be real. You know who they like to hang out with. It's pretty evident that Joe likes to talk to Tim Dillon. It's pretty evident that Joe likes to hang out with Thea Vaughn. It's pretty evident that Joe likes to hang around with Ari Shafir and the Protect Our Park guys, the Shane Gillis, the Mark Normans. He loves to be around them. It's pretty evident, right? He likes that CIA guy. I forgot his name. He gets him on the show quite often. It's pretty evident he likes David Goggins, sorry. It's pretty evident he loves Jordan Peterson. There's people that he likes, Red Band, Tony Hinchcliffe. He loves those people and he spends time around them all the time. He gets them on his show when he can, as often as he can get them on his show. So the ones that he's not on their show, of, because it's fair to say, unless they're distance covered, even Joe even managed to get on Flagrant, and he's met Andrew Schultz way after T-Fat-K guys. If anything, Brandon introduced Joe to Andrew Schultz. He made him aware of this guy, called Andrew Schultz, doing some cool things on YouTube. And since then, Andrew Schultz has, somehow managed to get Joe on his show before they went on to Fight the Kid, which is pretty hilarious.
When I did your podcast last, and we talked about homeless people.
Oh yeah.
It said, you go, I think we should shoot him. And I go, I like your ideas.
Yeah.
And then news outlets.
Yeah.
They took it was end quote. It was like, he says this, Rogan says this, Tom says, I like your idea. These guys are endorsing violence against and then they go, and then it happened. A homeless person was killed. And this is what these guys are.
Under fire
about.
for joke intended as political jab.
Yeah.
I was under fire. I wasn't even aware I was under fire. That's what's hilarious.
Yeah.
I didn't even have any idea. Didn't pay attention. Didn't affect me at all.
You know what? And I actually believe him. This is the thing where I think is hilarious about Brendan. Brendan loves to kind of just parrot Joe in terms of I don't read comments and do this, but Joe legitimately doesn't. You can tell he doesn't because of how he kind of carries himself and the things that he says. He generally doesn't read him because I think at this point, if he did read him, it would probably make his head explode. He can't because he's got too much input coming in. He probably is better for him, for his show, to have somebody else read those comments and relay back some of the key touch points that he maybe can take away from it and things that he can reflect on. But in terms of sitting and going through comments, I don't think he does. He doesn't necessarily read the articles, nothing. I wouldn't surprise me if he actually does. I actually believe him. He's one person that I really do believe that doesn't do it. Okay, he doesn't need to either because, you know, he's basically, you know, richer than God himself.
I got messages of like, I cannot believe that I supported you and that you advocate violence against the homeless.
You got messages?
Yeah, and I didn't even
repulsive.
I didn't even tell most of those people.
Look at this repulsive podcast comments
That you remember.
But that's some. But we should just explain what we actually said.
Right.
We were actually saying is that if you shot them, no one would care because they don't do anything about violence.
Right.
That's what we're saying. We weren't saying you should shoot the homeless people. We were saying, like, you can't touch their stuff.
Right.
Like, they're allowed to leave.
In L.A., that's considered actual personal property.
Yeah, and they'll arrest you.
Arrest you for touching their stuff.
I go, but they won't do anything if you shoot them.
Exactly.
I go, maybe we should shoot them.
And there's a huge spike in actual violent crime.
Yeah.
And to be clear, I was part of the group that paid to have the homeless people that were on Cesar Chavez here in Austin drown in Lake Travis.
Honestly, when I saw it the first time, that misdirect was fucking brilliant, man. Honestly, Tom is fucking hilarious. I don't care. I love Tom. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Your Mum's House. Big fan of everything that he does for the most part. He makes Two Bears, One Cave unbearable to watch because Bert Crash is a fucking nightmare and an adult baby. But that guy is funny. He's legitimately funny, man. That was fucking brilliant.